If you're a gun owner, a concealed carry holder, or someone who cares about Second Amendment rights, the rules just changed under your feet. We're in January 2026, and if you haven't been paying attention to what happened throughout 2025, you could be breaking laws you didn't even know existed, or missing out on rights you didn't know you had. From coast to coast, pistol regulations are shifting dramatically, and some of these changes affect every single state in this country. Are you carrying legally right now? Are you storing your handgun correctly? Do you even know what's required in your state anymore? The answers might surprise you, and they could be the difference between staying legal and facing serious criminal charges. Before we dive into the details that could literally save your freedom, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because gun laws are evolving faster than ever before, and you need to stay ahead of the curve. Drop a comment below and tell me which state you're watching from and whether these changes make you feel more free or more restricted. Now let's break down exactly what's happening with pistol laws across America and what you absolutely need to know right now. Here's what makes this moment in American gun law history so significant. We're living through the most polarized era of firearms legislation this country has ever seen, and it's creating a patchwork of regulations that's getting more complex by the month. Throughout 2025, we saw states sprint in completely opposite directions when it comes to pistol regulations. Some states doubled down on restrictions, adding layers of requirements that gun owners never had to deal with before. Other states went the complete opposite way, stripping away permit requirements and opening up constitutional carry like never before. But here's the critical part that affects everyone, regardless of which state you call home. The landscape has shifted so dramatically that the rules you thought you knew 12 months ago might be completely outdated today. Whether you're a lifelong gun owner or someone considering purchasing their first pistol for self-defense, understanding these changes isn't optional anymore. It's absolutely essential. Let's start with the states that tightened their grip on pistol regulations because these changes are catching gun owners off guard in real time. California, which already had some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, added even more layers to their regulations that took effect on January 1st, 2025. If you live in California or you're thinking about buying a handgun there, listen carefully. Assembly Bill 1483 strengthened the restriction that prevented people from applying for more than one handgun within a 30-day period. Now, here's the kicker. They removed a major exemption that used to exist for private party transactions. What does that mean for you? It means even if you're buying from your neighbor, your cousin, or your buddy at the range, that 30-day rule still applies. No more going around it through private sales. But wait, there's more complexity here because while this law is technically on the books, the California Department of Justice announced they won't enforce it while a court injunction remains in place. So you've got a law that exists but isn't being enforced, which creates a confusing gray area that could change at any moment if that injunction gets lifted. California didn't stop there. They also passed Assembly Bill 1598. Which now requires every firearms dealer in the state to hand you a warning pamphlet when you purchase a gun. This isn't just some basic safety reminder. This pamphlet specifically warns you about increased risks of death in your household from suicide, homicide, or unintentional injury when you bring a firearm home. Now, whether you think that's helpful information or government overreach, the point is you're going to see it every time you make a purchase. And there's one more California change you need to know about. Assembly Bill 29-17 gives courts expanded powers when they're considering gun violence restraining orders. Now judges can factor in a broader range of threats, specifically including hate-based threats, when they decide whether someone should temporarily lose their right to own firearms. These restraining orders, sometimes called red flag laws, are becoming a major battleground in gun rights debates, and California just made it easier for courts to use them. But California wasn't alone in adding restrictions. New York joined them by requiring gun dealers to post warning signs about the risks of firearm ownership starting January 7th, 2025. Every time you walk into a gun store in New York, you'll see these government-mandated warnings staring back at you. New York also implemented a statewide registry for extreme risk protection orders, which are their version of red flag laws. This creates a centralized database tracking every person in the state who's been deemed too dangerous to own guns, even temporarily. Colorado made significant changes too, especially when it comes to how you store your pistol in your vehicle. Starting January 1st, 2025, if you leave your handgun in an unoccupied vehicle anywhere in Colorado, it must be locked in a hard-sided container that's out of plain view, and your vehicle itself must also be locked. If you're just running into a gas station for 5 minutes and you leave your pistol in the glove box, you could be breaking the law if that glove box isn't a hard-sided, lockable container. Colorado also increased training requirements for concealed carry permits, and that change goes into effect in July 2025, requiring an 8-hour training class complete with a written exam and live fire exercise. Minnesota banned binary triggers effective January 1st, 2025. For those who don't know, a binary trigger is a modification that allows a gun to fire once when you pull the trigger and again when you release it, essentially doubling your rate of fire without making the gun fully automatic. Delaware expanded their safe school zones to include university campuses, making it a felony to possess a firearm on any college campus in the state. These aren't minor tweaks to existing laws. These are fundamental changes in how gun ownership works in these states, and they're creating serious legal traps for people who travel across state lines or simply didn't keep up with the latest legislation. Now let's flip the script entirely and talk about the states that went in the complete opposite direction, because this is where things get really interesting. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, we saw multiple states adopt constitutional carry laws, also called permitless carry. What does that mean? It means you don't need a government-issued permit to carry a concealed handgun in public. As of 2025, 29 states now recognize some form of constitutional carry. Think about that number for a second. That's more than half the country where law-abiding citizens can carry a concealed pistol without asking permission from the government first. South Carolina and Louisiana both passed legislation in 2024 allowing lawful gun owners to carry firearms without a permit, and those laws are now in full effect. The momentum behind constitutional carry is real, and it's growing. New Hampshire took a different approach, but still expanded gun rights significantly. Starting January 1st, 2025, New Hampshire passed House Bill 1336, which bars employers from forbidding employees from storing firearms in locked vehicles on company property. So if your boss previously had a policy saying you couldn't have a gun in your car in the company parking lot, that policy is now illegal under state law. New Hampshire also strengthened privacy protections for gun owners with House Bill 1186, which prohibits the use of special merchant category codes that banks and credit card companies wanted to use to track firearms purchases. This was a huge win for gun rights advocates who were concerned about financial institutions essentially creating a backdoor gun registry by flagging every firearms-related purchase. Kentucky passed similar merchant category code legislation that took effect January 1st, 2025, joining at least 15 other states in blocking this form of financial surveillance of gun owners. Here's where the national picture gets even more complex and potentially explosive. Congress has been considering the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, introduced in early 2025 as House Bill 38. If this legislation passes, it would fundamentally reshape pistol carry laws across all 50 states by forcing every state to recognize concealed carry permits from every other state. Imagine having a concealed carry permit from Florida and being able to legally carry in New York, California, New Jersey, and every other state that currently doesn't recognize out-of-state permits. This would be the most significant change to concealed carry laws in American history, essentially creating a national carry standard similar to how your driver's license works across state lines. Gun rights organizations are pushing hard for this legislation, while gun control advocates are calling it dangerous federal overreach that would undermine state sovereignty and public safety. As of now, this bill is working its way through Congress, and with a pro-gun administration and Republican majorities in both chambers, it has a real chance of becoming law. If you care about this issue one way or the other, now is the time to contact your representatives because this could be decided in the coming months. Now let's talk about a specific issue that's affecting people in deeply personal ways. Illinois passed something called Karina's Law, which was signed into effect in February 2025 and designed specifically to protect domestic violence victims by expediting the removal of firearms from abusers who have protection orders against them. This law was named after Karina Gonzalez, who was fatally shot by her husband in an act of domestic gun violence despite having a protective order. The law requires law enforcement to move faster in seizing weapons when a judge issues a domestic violence protection order. While this might sound straightforward, it's creating tension between protecting abuse victims and ensuring due process rights for gun owners. These are the kinds of laws that exist in the gray zone where legitimate concerns about safety collide with legitimate concerns about constitutional rights. One of the most significant developments that didn't happen in 2025, but is absolutely critical to understand, is what the courts are doing. Throughout 2025, federal courts continued to grapple with the Supreme Court's 2022 Bruin decision, which established that gun regulations must be consistent with America's historical tradition of firearm regulation. This historical test has thrown gun laws into chaos across the country because judges are now striking down regulations that can't be justified by finding similar laws from the 1700s or 1800s. In August 2025, the 10th Circuit Court struck down New Mexico's 7-day waiting period for firearm purchases, ruling it unconstitutional under the Bruin standard. In another case, the 9th Circuit struck down California's ammunition background check requirements, though that decision is heading for a rehearing in 2026. These court battles matter just as much as new legislation because they're systematically dismantling gun regulations that have been on the books for decades. Here's what all of this means for you as a gun owner or someone considering firearm ownership. First and most importantly, you cannot assume the rules that applied in your state last year still apply today. Laws are changing at the state level, at the federal level, and through court decisions faster than most people can track. If you carry a concealed pistol, you need to verify right now that you're complying with current storage requirements, training requirements, and permit requirements in your specific state. If you travel across state lines with your firearm, you need to research the laws in every state you'll be driving through, because what's perfectly legal in one state could land you in prison in another. The patchwork nature of American gun laws has never been more complicated than it is right now in 2025 and into 2026. Second, pay attention to how you're storing your pistol, especially in your vehicle. Multiple states have new requirements about hard-sided lockboxes and out-of-sight storage that didn't exist before. A simple traffic stop could turn into a firearms charge if you're not following the latest regulations. Third, if you don't have a concealed carry permit yet and you live in a state that still requires one, consider getting it even if your state is moving toward constitutional carry. Having that permit gives you reciprocity in other states and provides legal protection that permitless carry doesn't always offer. Fourth, keep your eye on that federal concealed carry reciprocity legislation, because if it passes, it will be the single biggest change to pistol carry laws in American history, and it will affect every single gun owner in the country, regardless of what state you live in. The bottom line is this. We're living through a moment of massive transformation in American gun laws, and sitting on the sidelines isn't an option if you own a pistol or plan to carry one for self-defense. Some states are expanding your rights in ways that would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. Other states are restricting those rights in ways that are catching even experienced gun owners by surprise. The only way to stay on the right side of the law is to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay current with these changes as they happen. That's why you need to subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with every gun owner you know, because this information could literally be the difference between exercising your Second Amendment rights legally and facing criminal charges you never saw coming. Drop a comment below and let me know what gun law changes you're seeing in your state and whether you think America is headed in the right direction on firearms policy. Are we becoming more free or less free when it comes to pistol ownership and carry rights? I want to hear your perspective because this is one of the most divisive and important issues facing our country right now. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to understanding and protecting your constitutional rights. Stay safe, stay legal, and stay informed. I'll see you in the next video.